Here we are with the 2013 Toyota Camry XLE, and it's time for an oil change in this car, and thought I would go ahead and make a video of it. This is the 3.5 liter V6, the 2GR FE engine. Got some tools and supplies, I'll list them in the description. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm actually going to start with the oil filter, which lives right here in this cartridge. It's similar to what's on the newer Toyota Corollas, but there's a little bit more to it on this setup. You do need a special tool. I'm going to be using the Motivex tools just like I used in the Corolla. This is the MX2320. And I'm going aftermarket with the filter, but this one is quite similar to what the OEM Toyota filter is. Let's see. This is the cartridge. And then it also comes with not one but two O-rings and this little plastic valve. So there are two O-rings here because this big one here is to seal the cartridge onto the engine, but this little one here is to seal inside this little cover right here. So to remove this cap, you just take a 3/8 inch drive and loosen it. Now sometimes these are horrendously tight, and sometimes what you have to do is when you go to loosen this, it'll actually turn the whole assembly instead of just this little cap right here. So there are some ways to combat that, but you can see it wasn't an issue this time. So there's the O-ring that we need to replace, but I'm going to do it after we remove this entire assembly. So now the idea is you use this little plastic valve and you insert it into the bottom of the filter housing there, and that'll drain out all the oil that's sitting in the canister so that it doesn't make as much of a mess when you remove it. So you don't necessarily have to do this, but after so long, this O-ring here is going to wear out and could potentially cause a leak. So at least it's a good idea to replace this O-ring if you can. That should be good enough. So now I'm going to take my oil filter tool, and this tool also works on the AR series 4-cylinder engines, which would be the 2.5 and 2.7. And I think this also works on the UR series V8s, which would be the 4.6 and the 5.7. This is obviously the GR 3.5 V6. So there it fits on. I'm going to grab a socket. You can use a 3/8 inch drive here also, but I'm using a 27mm socket. And that's kind of tight. Ugh. Really like this extendable ratchet for situations like this to give you some more leverage. Okay, that feels loose enough. Remove the tool. Okay. And this is the oil filter housing here. So just for now, I'm going to leave this off. I'm going to clean out the mating surface here for the new O-ring. And that's what it looks like with the whole assembly removed. Now I'm going to drain the oil. It's a 14 millimeter for the drain plug. And these gaskets, the crush washers like to stick onto the oil pan. I'm going to try and remove it before I remove the plug. Might need a little screwdriver. There it goes. And the oil is draining. We're just going to let that go until it's all out of there. And while I'm waiting, I'm going to go ahead and change the drain plug gasket. Old one is off. I have a new one in hand here. So that'll be ready to go. Okay, that oil's still draining out, so let's go ahead and change the filter while we're waiting. Got our two O-rings. And here's our cartridge. We're gonna replace this small one. Okay, we're lucky it came out by hand. Sometimes you'll have to pry it out with a little screwdriver or something. And we'll take our small O-ring. I'm going to lubricate it with some oil here. And press it in there. Okay. And now we'll change the big O-ring on the assembly here. Grab our new one. Same thing, gonna lubricate it in some oil. That looks good. So now we'll install our new oil filter cartridge. It just slides in. And we can reinstall. I'm just gonna get it, oops. Just gonna get it hand tight to start. Okay. And I'm going to reinstall the cap. Again, 3/8 inch drive. I'm just going to start it by hand. And then we'll go ahead and tighten them down. So most oil filters come with a little slip of paper like this that give you some torque settings. Or torque specifications, but I usually just kind of do it by hand and it works just fine. Okay, that should be good. Okay. And now for the drain plug. And I'll just snug it down a little bit with our 14. That should be fine. And a little bit of cleanup with some brake clean. Okay, now we're back up top, ready to add some new oil. And with these 3.5 liter V6s, some of them take different viscosities and some of them have different capacities, so check your owner's manual. This engine in the owner's manual, it says use 0W20 and use 6.4 quarts. So, some of these take 5W30, some of them take slightly more or slightly less, but for this application, 0W20, 6.4 quarts. Obviously it should say on the oil cap which to use. So I've got my Napa full synthetic made by Valvoline. Okay, the oil cap is replaced. I put about just a little over 6 quarts in the engine. Let's go ahead and start it. Okay, oil light went out. Okay, so our new oil is in the engine. The dipstick is showing full. The last thing we need to do is reset the maintenance required light. So to do that, set the trip odometer to trip meter A, and then engine off, and then press and hold the trip meter and switch the ignition to on without starting the engine. So press the button twice, or if you don't have push button start, turn the key to the on position. And it's reset. All right, everything looks good. All right, there's your oil and filter change. Toyota Camry 3.5 V6.